There's a bus here. There's a couple other buses here. I've been putting these videos off for a long time. I started full-time RVing after thinking about it for about 8 years. Just in October. Part of the reason why I've been putting it off is because, well, there's a story behind it of why I finally started doing it that I've not been ready to really share or express yet. But the other reason is mostly just because I'm terrified of the camera and just the situation in general. But there's a few reasons of why I need to start doing it, and it's not really just about RVing. It's not about the situation of why I started, but it kind of is. There's the other bus that was here the other night. Now there's another couple of vehicles. I don't know where I'm gonna be parking now. Regardless, so I decided that tonight is the night I need to start discussing the situation and sharing my story. On Thanksgiving last year, 2022, well, technically the day before Thanksgiving last year, 2022, I couldn't sleep that particular night, and I was watching videos, just movies, videos, whatever I could do to ease my nerves of just things going on in life in general, I guess. I just couldn't sleep that night. Regardless, at 3 in the morning, around 3, I received a phone call which showed that it was the hospital where I live. And well, the situation was such that the doctor asked me, the nurse, if it was okay if they gave my daughter life-saving procedures. I assumed at that moment that it was for like CPR or something happened. I didn't know. I said, of course, I'll be right there. What's going on? They said she had a seizure and they needed to do life-saving procedures. I jumped up, I got dressed. I was not that far from the hospital, about 10 minutes away. It only took me 15 minutes to jump up and get in the car and get there. I ran in, they told me where she was. I got to the area where she was being treated. And the situation was much dire than what they made it seem. when I walked in the room, I realized that my daughter was on life support. My daughter had been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer 8 years prior. It was about a year prior to marijuana being legalized for medical use. And at that time, we found a grower in Oregon, not too far from us. Also where my aunt and uncle live. And they've been for many years, so they know a lot of people. And the grower had a CBD with a high enough level to treat cancer and other things. So we made our own CBD. We made enough to treat her the best that we could. Sorry about the angle of the phone. I'm holding my phone and I'm holding it outwards. I look terrible. I've had split days off lately, and so I have to run around like a mad woman and get important things done on my 1 days off here and there through the week. Regardless, we made enough CBD to treat her. It was not cheap. Thank God I had my family helping. My daughter was 19 at the time, by the way. And we started treating her. There was nothing they could do, they said. The type of brain tumor that she had was untreatable. It's called an astrocytoma. It was very large, very embedded, inoperable. The only thing they could do at the time was try radiation to try to shrink it, just to give her a little bit longer life. But at the same time, it could swell up and cause her to pass earlier. She chose to go ahead and try it because it was pretty grim at the time. We continued to treat with CBD. She did a bout of the radiation. It did not shrink it enough to do anything. And it actually swelled her brain enough to where she was very, very very bad off 5 months into it, her diagnosis. Well, fortunately, even though at the time, 5 months into it, she had her MRI, she was given 2 weeks to live because it was just very swollen. Her midline was shifting to an extent of a bad situation, and she could go anytime, and they suggested we get her on hospice. we instead went on a trip together. We came back home, and 28 days later, she had another MRI. And the radiation oncologist came in with her jaw dropped and stating that she could not explain what she was seeing. She showed me a film that was next to the original films, and it showed the original mass dissipating. Regardless, my daughter lived clearly for another about 8 years. What happened, and why I say since they legalized marijuana, was since they legalized it, it became impossible to get CBD. You could walk into any dispensary and ask for the highest THC they had, and they would give it to you. But the only CBD that you can get, which is what you need to treat anything physically, medically, was pre-made crap that's called CBD. It does not treat cancer. It does not treat MS. It does not treat the things that CBD treats. I have proof. I have medical proof. 3 years after we ran out of my daughter's CBD, the tumor grew back very rapidly, very aggressively. And a month prior to her passing, we were told that she had no chance. It was way worse than it was the 8 years prior. The hardest thing for me was not necessarily my pain, but watching my children, who were very close growing up, go through it, losing their sister. And then to make it even more heart-wrenching, neither of my daughters were able to have children. My eldest daughter had a bicornuate uterus. Through her marriage, she went through many, many miscarriages. She found a specialist that worked with her and tried really hard to do what he could to help her. And although my grandson was born at 26 weeks and spent 14 weeks in the NICU, he survived. And so I have a beautiful 9-year-old grandson because of it. The other thing is that my daughter that passed, she didn't cycle. She would never have children. We never expected her to ever be able to get pregnant. And under the circumstances, wasn't the greatest situation, but she ended up getting pregnant. And I now have a 3-year-old granddaughter that is absolutely beautiful and is my everything, and I'm so lucky to have. But her mommy is gone. And my daughter has to go through not having her sister that was her everything. And my son has to go through not having his sister. I want to blame it on the situation with marijuana becoming legal and not being able to get it the way we need it, which makes no sense. It's quite ironic if you think about it. Basically, they made it to where we could have it for mental and emotional medical use, but not physical. I don't need to get into why of the politics of that, because I'm sure we all know. The bad part about it is that people don't realize that it does work. Anyone who knows anything about cancer and about the type of tumor that my daughter had knows that it's not survivable, but my daughter survived it for 8 years because of the CBD. There is no other way she could have. No one survives it unless it's operable, which is rare, and that it's just the way it is, regardless. So I live in a place where it's very expensive, like everywhere else. I was paying $2,400 a month for rent, and I was already getting just over it. I wanted to be able to save money and travel and be with my grandchildren more, and someday try to retire. Nowadays, it seems like it's impossible for any of us, even if you make $150,000 a year. Nobody qualifies for a $300,000 or $400,000 home, even making that. Anyhow, I won't go on right now, but that is why I bought my little tiny mini motor home, and I'm working, and there's things that need to be done, which I'll share with you guys, and I'll share more of my story of why I'm here and what we'll be sharing with you and why. Maybe someday we can do something about a lot of different things that are going on in the world, but that's unlikely since we've not ever been able to. Anyhow, I won't ramble on, but if you're still here, thanks for listening.